Everyone good. Everyone good.
My Kevin.
They're not taller than mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Finally, we get to see our superstar actress.
Ah.
Good afternoon.
I just went to make some tea and coffee and everything.
Nice. Okay. Okay. So I think people are getting into the webinar now. Okay. I guess let's give them like maybe another 1 or 2 minutes for people to log in, and then we'll kick off.
All right, that's fine.
Guess at maybe 2:05 we'll start formally.
Cool.
Yeah. Let me just hi, Omoni.
Hi.
Imagine when we're meeting on the. Have we started? Sorry, we're busy chatting away.
No, it hasn't. I haven't let people in yet, so we're still safe.
Yeah.
You couldn't even say hello. Hope
Actually, people are in.
Oh, really? Omoni and I have been planning to meet for a year.
Actually, people are in. We just want a few more people to come in, so then the next 2-3 minutes we can start off. So
all right, let me
yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Hi, Wabi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Yourself?
Likewise. Okay, I think we can start now. It's 2:05. I think we have a couple of people already in the participants room. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to use this medium to formally welcome you to our webinar on the creative industry in Nigeria. This is our 4th webinar that we're organizing at the Tokunbo Orimobi Foundation. And we've been doing this for a few months now. And what we typically do is to pick different sectors and create some thought leadership in those sectors. This month, we're looking at the creative industry. And what we've done is to gather industry experts, participants, and investors in that space for us to spend 1 to 1 hour, 30 minutes to brainstorm on the industry, where we were before COVID and what the new normal will be in the industry. I'd like to say a big thank you to our moderator, Nosa, for agreeing to moderate this, and also to our wonderful panelists, my dear brother, Atafo, thank you very much. Ayo Amusan, who I call my perennial entrepreneur, thank you for joining. Our superstar actress and filmmaker, Omoni, thank you very much. And Wabi, thank you very much for joining. And I guess at this juncture, I'll just let Nosa take things from here and while I listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good afternoon. I can hear you, but your picture is freezing. I don't know if that's me or everybody.
1 second, please. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we can. Thank you. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure and a big honor to be actually moderating this panel. I'm a big fan of at least half of the people sitting on this panel. Mike, it's great to see you after a while. Omoni, I am one of your biggest fans. I mean, the few times I get to watch African movies, I always look out for your movies, I mean, with great pleasure. Mrs. Ayo, when I was going through your profile, just trying to understand you a bit, at first I didn't get the meaning of a perennial entrepreneur, but now the way Michael emphasizes it so much, I can imagine seeing how far you've actually been the person behind a lot of things that, wow, I hope our guests and people that are listening will be able to understand how far you've come. So it's a great pleasure to meet you. Mrs. Wabi, nice to meet you. Great job you're doing, especially in the retail business. I must say, great job you're doing also with the West African Fashion Council. It's a very, very big honor to have everybody this afternoon. So, having said that, the primary thing I would like to kick off with is, my name is Nosa. I had a big bit of stint in media, TV, most especially. I've also had the privilege of working with brands like Moet Hennessy, Cadbury, BAT, just from talent and management and consultancy angle. So when we speak about the creative industry, I know it's made up of a couple of aspects. Now, some of those aspects, I'm happy that we have good representation here. I was telling the team that I can't see anybody representing music in this creative industry. We have fashion, we have lifestyle, we have movies. What happened to music? But notwithstanding, it's a great pleasure. And the first thing I actually wanted to ask and start off with is what and who? Sometimes if it's not a person, it might be a reason. Really kick-started each and our individual journeys into this creative industry. So we can start with Mrs. Ayo.
How did I guess you were going to start with me? Good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Michael, for inviting me. I know I was trying to get out of this, but I actually feel quite proud to be here with all these people. So I'm looking forward to this. In terms of how this journey started, I don't know whether to say it was by accident or it was just, it just happened to be. I would say my husband was building a shopping center, and at the time there was a gap in the market, and I saw the opportunity because, of course, when you build these things, you need content. And in terms of what to put in there, I could see that we didn't have certain brands, because in those days you could see people would travel and come back with suitcases of things. Some were selling from the car, some were selling from anywhere. And I just felt that there was a chance for us to have these brands actually be on ground and for us to be able to serve the people rather than them going that traditional way. In terms of the same thing with the business of cinemas, it was content, really. We have this building being built and there was just not enough in the market at the time. So I saw an opportunity, a problem that I felt maybe I had a chance to try and help to fix.
Okay, that's good. That's good. We're very impressed and we appreciate that. Mai, please tell us what and who, if there was a person that, because I know your background a bit, especially from the alcohol industry, and you now waking up one morning saying, listen, I want to go into the creative space. I mean, something must have changed.
Yes. Please, at any point in time, if you're not hearing me, please indicate, because I wasn't hearing other people keep breaking, so I want to make sure that's not the same thing with me. So if I break at all, please let me know so I can fix that. So, yeah, correct. I didn't come in as wanting to be a fashion designer or an entrepreneur. I started my career in marketing with British American Tobacco. Then I moved on to Guinness Nigerian PLC, or Diageo, where I worked in these two institutions for a combined period of almost 9 years. But whilst I was in Diageo, I started doing fashion. I've never called it a fashion business because it wasn't business at the point in time. And it came from the same thing whereby, you know, you did something and somebody liked it, and you would do it for them, and the person would call and ask for the same thing. So that was how, you know, talking about and stuff while I was still working. So I worked and did before I quit my job in 2010 to focus on fashion full time. So at the time I started my fashion business in 2020. I didn't know I was going into fashion business. I just knew I was going to do something that I love to do. Then we realized that it had to be business. We had to make money. We had to generate revenue, and the conversation just changed from that point on. And from that point on to now, we defined what we're doing. We started from My Atafo Inspired, moved on to My Atafo, now it's Atafo. And because of that, in the course of that journey, we changed things. You know, I would say we changed things drastically. So we are clear on our focus right now and what we're doing, and that's what we're pushing. So that's pretty much the story. When I worked in Diageo and British American Tobacco, I worked in the marketing function. So I've done literally every single part of marketing, from market research to marketing projects, to customer marketing, to sales, to brand marketing, to marketing innovation. And also I had a short stint in advertising where I worked for a creative agency for about a year. That was after I left my job at Guinness. I've also been creative. I've also been a fashion editor for Genevieve magazine. I did that for about 2 years. And I was the head of Spice TV, as we know it now, for also about a year. So these are the different endeavors that I've been into. Right now, as I'm doing fashion, in the last 6 months, I've been heading the marketing endeavors for a fintech company in Nigeria. So I'm also doing my marketing on the side because I really love it. So that's my story, pretty much.
Miss Wabi, nice to meet you. It's a big pleasure to have you. Moving from fashion campaigns to retail, that should be phenomenal. Like, how did you even start or get into this at all?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be among the panelists. I'm really, really honored, and I thank you for the opportunity. I'd say I kind of stumbled into it because I've been working in retail for quite a while, and I just did it for doing sake, to be honest. And then I began to apply for various, jobs, internships here and there. And eventually I got contacted through a board member from the West African Fashion Council, who was really impressed. And he was like, you know what, I think I'm going to give you this opportunity to become an operations manager and be it a startup organization. I was like, okay, let's go for it. Let's do it. And so this is basically like my first step in the creative industry. So I'm like a newbie somehow. But yeah, that's basically it. There's so lots to learn, lots of names and organizations I still need to learn. But for now, I guess I'm just using my transferable skills, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Omoni, like Michael said, our superstar in the building.
Hi.
Yes, I mean, hi, it's a great pleasure to have you, and thank you for taking out the time to be here today.
Thank you.
Like I said, I'm a big fan, and I've always wondered, when it comes to the movie actors and actresses, where did you begin? Where did you start? Like, your resume is so long based on the movies you've been in, but we always like knowing the genesis a bit, and at what time in your year did you say, listen, I want to do this, I'm going to do this, and you've been doing it?
I'm tempted to say I was born to do this. It's probably true. I started acting when I was 4 years old, not professionally. I started acting from school plays and church plays. I just knew I really loved to do it. And by the time I was in secondary school, I acted all through primary school. Time I was in secondary school, when I was in senior secondary, I was the head of the Literary and Debating Society, and also the head of Press Club and French Club, which meant I had to write, produce, and direct plays in English and French for my school. So Parents Teachers Association Day, I would present these plays. I would have rallied all the students, get props, get costumes, do everything. At the time, I obviously didn't know what I was doing was producing and directing. I just knew it was my job to put together these plays, and which meant most times I had to write them myself as well, So I didn't know that I was preparing myself for my future, which is exactly what I do today, So I write, produce, direct, and act in movies. So I've been doing this for quite a while, not professionally until my first or second year in university. And some of my friends, I went to University of Benin. I was studying foreign languages. I majored in French. And some of my friends had been to Lagos, and they had been part of the movie industry. They did what we called waka pass. Like, they played extras or day characters in some movies, and then they came back to school and that's all they could talk about. And I was just like, oh my gosh, these people are just living my dream. This is what I want to do, So the following vacation from school, I went with them to Lagos, and that's how I stumbled into Nollywood. It wasn't called Nollywood then, it was just industry or whatever, So that's how I started. But I had to leave it because it became a problem with school. So I did a few walk-on roles, like waka pass, and then I got my first lead role. It got another and another, and then it just became a problem. So it came to a point where I had to make a decision if I was going to finish school or I was going to drop out. At the time, many people were dropping out. It was actually kind of cool, just face your career, but I was raised by a single mom, and I knew it was going to break her heart. So I didn't want to drop out. I needed to finish school. So I had to put Nollywood, so to speak, on a backbench and just finish my education. But then I didn't get to come back to Nollywood till over 10 years, because right after school I got married and started having kids. Like, someone was chasing me. So I didn't have the opportunity to come back, because then we even left the country for a while, until 10 years after we came back to Nigeria. And I tried to do one or two other things, but I knew that the pull was still there. Because I mean, even when I was in the UK, I'd watch movies and just be like, oh, see my mates, you know, these are the people I started with, look at all of them now, you know. And then coming back to Nigeria, I tried to do one or two other things, but I just knew this, I wanted to be in the movies. So I tried to get back into the movies, and it was so tough, you know. Tried getting in as an actor, you know, it was really, really difficult. Then I started to write scripts, because then I could trade my scripts for roles, you know. So I would write a script and give to a producer and say, don't pay me, just let me just star in the film, you know. So I did one or two movies like that, and then I got to be in Kunle's The Figurine, and that was just it, you know. And then I did Anchor Baby, which just got released on Netflix 10 years later, you know. And then that was just the icing on the cake. And then I decided one day I was tired of giving my scripts to other directors, because not because they didn't direct it properly, but because no two directors would direct one story the same way. So if you give two directors one story, you're going to have two different movies, because the movie is from the director's point of view. So I felt like if my scripts or my stories were going to have my DNA, then I had to direct them myself. So I thought, why not become a director? And that was a scary thought, because there were very few female directors. There still are, as a matter of fact, you know. So when you said director, everyone thought male, definitely, not a woman, you know. And I knew all over the world it's very difficult for actors to transit into becoming directors, you know. So it was a scary thought. And I just thought to myself, I need to get a bit of formal education on this. So I went to New York Film Academy and I took a short course in digital filmmaking. I'd been learning on the job, of course. Like every movie I was part of, I would sit beside the director all the time, make sure I'm learning stuff, you know. So, but I did take the course at New York Film Academy, and it took me 4 years to make my first film. Obviously, because you have to think about funding. You know, nobody's going to give a rookie director their funds to make a film. I know I won't, you know, so I didn't expect anybody would give me. So I had to look for my funding myself. So it took me 4 years to make my first film, being Mrs. Elliot. And from then on till now, the rest, as they say, is history.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's good knowing your journey to get to where exactly you are right now. And well done. Well done. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
I mean, the reason for us being here basically is what has been defined to be the new normal post-COVID, right? And we've come to the space where it's amazing. It was literally at the end of a decade when we were going to sit back December 31st, 2019, and we were going to say the end of the decade comes a new decade, things are going to change. Now, COVID has come and probably altered things to change faster than we anticipated. Now, the question that I would like to put on the table, starting with Wabi, is up until 2019, how has things been done in terms of where have we got into with the campaigns you've been part of? You've done some amazing campaigns from the West African Council. And at the same time, for us to say what would now remain normal, COVID, as it's well, we are hoping it's coming to an end. What are we going to revert to? Are we going to revert to how business used to be done? Are you going to revert to the kind of runway shows that you were part of, or you put together, or are things literally going to change? You know, please.
So I think there's a reason why it's called the new normal, and that's because I don't believe things are going to get back to how we used to see them or how we used to experience them before the pandemic and before the lockdown. In terms of West African Fashion Council, I would say somehow, luckily, we don't like host of events, but we partner with them and we oversee them. So, and we see like there's a rise of using technology, which like enables maybe fashion shows and runways not to be done, you know, physically anymore. So like the need of having a meetup or having like so many people in one location, I believe is going to like go down, and it's more going to be everything through like technology. So we would see like we had the 3D runway, and lots of things are going to be done via you know, maybe just being in our own comfort in our houses, and we see things through the internet, social media, YouTube, and various other platforms. In terms of what's going to be done after the pandemic, I must say it helped the council. I believe because during the lockdown, everyone was at home, so we had even too much of time to do things. So most things were set up for the council during this time. So we actually like laid a foundation, and you know, we're making contact and we're growing. We took time to grow during this pandemic. So after pandemic, I don't know, in the sense that you know, that there's still a lot that has to happen, and there's still so much we still need to get a balance. Like, I believe everyone still needs to find a new balance, because up until 2019, what we took for granted or what we took for normal, it's no more normal now. Like going to parties or going to events, it's not a thing that we can just freely do now. So yeah, there's still lots of learning that we have to do to readapt to what's going to be from 2020 ongoing.
Okay, thank you very much, Wabi. Mrs. Ayo, the new normal. With your experience in building cinemas, with your experience based on the amount of investment you've made and partnerships you've made when it comes to, you know, what your brand has taken on, how are things going to look like? I'm also aware you're working on one of the biggest event centers that would come up on the island. Post-COVID, are we going to find people that will be attending concerts indoors, or are we going to have to switch to a more? Are you concerned now that, oh my God, I've committed investment into an arena? What's going to happen? Are people going to come back? Drive-ins are trying to take the cinemas away, literally. So what do we do? What would the new normal look like for you?
Wow, different examples. But look, I don't believe there's any company that hasn't had their business model blown by the pandemic. So one thing's for certain, in every different business that I run and work in, we've had to be creative and quite innovative and forward thinking. You have to keep on, and you have to keep doing this pretty much on a daily basis. And you know, if you understand, say the retail section, it's a 24/7 business. You have to continue to do different things, because the consumer behavior, the pattern of consumer behavior, you can't rely on that anymore. But for me, this, you know, I'm kind of getting bored of this new normal, because I believe this is our normal now. In terms of dealing with what has happened, the virus and everything, we have to live with it. And the reality is that once, you know, things can get opened up fully, people will realize people need that human connection, the community spirit. Everybody wants and is, you know, eager to get back into the, you know, to get back into the scheme of things and just start everything when we can ease up. Now, in terms of, say, when with the arena that is going to be built and with the existing cinemas that we have today, we are making changes, creative changes that will accommodate what our so-called new normal is. I have no fears about the future. I have no worries about what will happen when we move forward beyond what we are in today. And I'm confident that every single business will adjust a little bit, but that we will continue to live in this way, it's unlikely. I mean, already Netflix shares have gone down. So everybody that was stuck up watching movies and at home and thinking that, nope, people are getting tired of it.
Okay. I mean, Netflix got our attention for the first 1 month. We were wondering whether we would ever. I can imagine the amount of movies that we are yet to see this year, and we do hope we make it back to the cinemas. Omoni, Netflix has showed up. Things have changed. The new normal will look like what now? Are we going to see? You know, you said something about when you try to join Hollywood now. Nollywood, I believe there's a new Nollywood, you know, emerging. There's always something emerging out of the Nigerian movie industry. What would the new normal look like for you, based on your experience as a producer, Are you switching to digital? Are you staying back to films that will make it to cinemas? Like, what would you think of, or, based on the projects ahead of you, what direction are you likely going to go?
Well, the honest truth is we're going to have to go with the flow. So it's really not up to you and I to decide how things are going to be. If things remain the way they are right now, which means the cinemas are not open, we can't have serious human interaction, obviously we're all staying digital, right? But then if things open up and the cinemas are reopen and we can actually show our movies at the cinemas, then we'll take our movies to the cinemas, right? So it's almost as if it's out of our hands, really. We're not the government. We can't decide, if the cinemas will reopen or when the cinemas will reopen, right? So if the cinemas do reopen, obviously, I do have a project right now that is 80-something% ready that was supposed to go to the cinema first before coming on digital platform, which is how most of my movies have been. But that's the run I've had. Go to the cinemas first, do your thing, and then of course after the cinemas you go on digital platforms. But of course, if it remains the way it is, the chick's got to make money, right? So we'll probably just end up going straight to, digital platform, which I think is how a few filmmakers are looking at it right now. If we do get back to life the way it was before COVID, obviously you make a film, you want to take it to the cinema first because that's a stream of income, right? You don't want to just throw away that stream of income. So, but if things remain the way they are for much longer, then people like me and some other filmmakers would have to take their movies straight to a digital platform. It is what it is, because you're not just going to hold your project and then you're not making money and it's just sitting there looking at you. You know what I mean? So I think that has, yeah, Ayo, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you why, things remain as they are. Would that be, it doesn't work favorably for the movie producers, the movie directors, this is, you need to be able to have that platform to be able to get the revenue that you require for the movies that you produce. So for me, I would be encouraging that things go back
obviously
as soon as possible. Okay, so maybe I was misunderstanding because
no. So what I'm saying is, like I said, you can't throw away that stream of income. You don't want to throw away that stream of income, right? So you want things to go back to platform. No, I'm talking about the cinemas. You don't want to throw away the cinemas because it's a stream of income. You don't want to make a film and take it straight to a digital platform, especially if it's a made-for-cinema film, because there are films that are made for cinema and there are films that are made for home viewing, right? So which are the films that can go straight to digital platforms? If you have a made-for-cinema film,
what I am thinking is the digital platform cannot give you the revenue that the cinemas would. So even if you made, for me, I would, unless you explain this, let me understand a little bit better. Would it be better for you to go straight to digital?
We're on the same team, so I think you're misunderstanding me. So what I'm saying is this: the way my model has been is I make a film, it goes to the cinema, make that revenue from the cinema, and then after that, it goes to a digital platform. So what I'm saying is, because I am not the government and I'm not the one stipulating when cinemas will reopen, if things go on the way they are now and you have a project that you've been holding for a while, right? Because you have to have revenue, you might not have a choice but to take it straight to digital. But obviously that's not the preferred option. The preferred option, you want the movie to do a cinema run. You want to make that income from the cinema. Heck, most of my movies, most of my money from the cinema, right? So you want to make that money from the cinema. So I want things to go back to normal. I don't like this new normal. Nobody likes it, right? I want to be able to see you and jump on you and hug you and not think, is she going to give me a virus? Is that even a way to live, So I'm tired. I'm so over this whole coronavirus thing. So really, my thing is, hopefully we can reopen the cinemas. I'm not sure how well we can fill it up because of the whole social distancing business, you know, but at least let people be able to go out and have some fun, because it's not just about watching movies, you see. It's a lifestyle. It's about, you know, seeing other people, doing something, going out of your house so you don't get cabin fever, so you don't start getting depressed. You know what I mean? So going to the movies is not just about watching a movie. You can watch a movie anywhere, even on your phone, right? But going to the movies is an experience. It's something to do, you know? So we want that. We want to be able to get life back to that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, you're very right. I mean, it's a lifestyle, literally. We are all tired of it. What is going to be the new normal from your perspective? I mean, to be honest, I've started seeing some days ago, no, I think it was last week, I did see things popping up in the fashion world, like the 3D design now. And because your market is a bit niche, you know, your things are very bespoke. They're not mass, you know. So at the end of the day, I want to know what would work, or in your view, how would you feel if I came back into the market, what I would do first? Your mic is mute.
Great. So the pandemic really hit us really bad because for me, about 80% of my revenue is from weddings. So the moment that weddings ceased to happen, that was it. So 80% of my revenue just disappeared pretty much immediately. And that even happened before the lockdown in March. The other 20%, which was still people going to work when the piece also got affected because no one was going to work and no one was ordering new suits to go to work. Then the business for the kaftans also went, everyone was at home. So when things started to pick up, it was a case of guys wanting to make their kaftans, and that started coming up a little bit, and a few guys started going to work and started making some suits. So the numbers started to look, you know, at least better than the last 3 months of March, April, and May. But in terms of seeing how things can work, I'm very true to what I do, and I'm very realistic, which is, to a large extent, our culture and the way people get married is more about the razzmatazz rather than the institution. So I feel like people will hold on their weddings. I have a whole room filled with things for weddings, and people aren't coming to pick up their things. But realistically, in the last month, I've seen people actually do a few intimate weddings. And interestingly, the focus is now on the fashion and less on the number of people that come into the wedding. So when you're saving cost on venue, saving cost on drinks, saving cost on food, there's a good chance that you probably spend some good money on clothing. So as we speak, during the pandemic, I was working on the bridal collection to push that out because, and I'm going to drive with the campaign that, one of the most important things that matters to you on your wedding day is your wedding fashion, because through the years, that's going to remain constant. You're going to look at the food that you eat and the drinks you consume. What I actually believe is more important in the day of the wedding, which is the fashion, the image, the pictures, the videos. The decor has gone smaller, so you can save on that too. So I think there's still room going forward if people choose to get married. And we're seeing a few of that coming up. Then it also gives me a chance to push on my, my day-to-day wear. So I do a lot of kaftans, and I do a few hybrid kaftans with some European things. So I'm also shooting that. I'm trying to push that out too. And even for the women's wear, we started working on a few things too that we're going to push out. So it would get me to do a few more day day wear as against occasional wear, which is pretty much what I did more before. So a few more day wear will be day wear clothing be coming out. But also interestingly, I can't totally switch my model from where I am right now, which is pretty much 90% bespoke, to retail and starting things. Because when you think of retail, you know, there's a lot that goes into retail that a lot of people do not are not aware of. You know, from e-commerce, they start thinking of e-commerce and e-commerce platforms. You have to start thinking of inventory and stock. You have to start thinking of photography and the imagery of the things you're putting on the website. You have to start thinking of payment platforms. You have to think of courier service distribution. All these things are not, you know, fashion. You know, they are totally different from fashion. And there are things you need to use to run a retail space. So I'm looking into that and beginning to explore. So I think what I would say is that the pandemic is making, you know, what I would call your business thought process even go faster and further. You know, even in terms of digital, everyone is thinking in that same space. I'm thinking more like that for now. And I did say, you know, one of the saving grace was also the fact that, you know, all my years in marketing, I must say, you know, I did a good job when I did marketing in the good old days, and I also still kept my finger on the pulse of what was happening. So me being able to meet someone as a customer, had a conversation, and he was impressed with my knowledge in marketing and gave me a consultancy offer to lead marketing endeavors for his fintech business. It's been quite good. And because of that, I've even learned a lot more than I have learned in the last year in this. And again, it's nice to be paid for what you would call a side hustle. Even the rate it is going right now is getting me a bit thirsty. That how much I've missed marketing. I haven't done marketing for about 9 years and done fashion for about 10 years, you know. I find that marketing still excites me a lot, you know. So with the new normal, I don't think that I wouldn't change my model 100% to fit what is happening right now. I'm true to my brand and true to what it stands for. And if it doesn't fit into the new normal, I'm happy to limit transactions to what can fit into the new normal and look for another way to generate revenue or to, you know, express myself. I'm very realistic about that. So if this continues or gets worse, which I pray it doesn't, you know, there could be we are reducing the business to this level and we are focusing on another situation that can generate more revenue for me. So yeah, that's how it's affected us. Or affected me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There's something that I actually want to bring back to you, Mai. What you just highlighted now just made me realize the merger of art and commerce, right? For me, I also feel the new normal is for all brands to find a balance. Having that in mind, based on your brand and how bespoke your brand has been or is and your business model, how has that really tallied with the presence of pushing, or the effort rather of pushing local brands in this fashion industry? Because I also want to come back to Mrs. Ayo and Wabi. You just said you really don't go into retail. Because also, if we're able to figure out what we've attained so far as fashion, as a fashion industry, your brand as a fashion brand, and as one of the leading fashion brands in Nigeria, have we even started knocking the international space? Do we have some sort of entrance there, presence there? Mrs. Amusan, why are we not stocking, you know, these brands, these fashion brands from Nigeria? Ms. Wabi, why are these brands not even having the slightest presence at TJ Maxx? You know, so Mike, I mean, do we even have that much effort that we can claim in quotes that we are making some sort of presence on an international level?
Yeah, I would answer that this is regardless of the pandemic, to be honest. And realistically, when you look at the way we have modeled our fashion industry in Nigeria is kind of like different from international to a large extent. You know, we make clothes for function. So there's a wedding, there's a birthday, you are making it for that particular function. The other thing that you buy off the rack are necessity. Now, but as time has gone on, a lot of people have started doing retail fashion brands that are available for you to just buy and use. Now, in terms of international space, what people tend to forget is that the big fashion brands we look at, in terms of comparison, Burberry is probably bigger than MTN. Okay, so I like people to put things in perspective. Many of these big brands that you see are bigger than the big telcos you have here in terms of size and scale, and even in terms of revenue, okay? Now, when you compare that, which fashion brand in Nigeria or Africa is trying to be like that? And is the environment even supporting that kind of growth? Wherever you know that one of the key things you need for production anywhere in the world is power. So number one, Nigeria, you're generating your power. If you want to go mass production, there's a big gap, because I know people say they do mass production. The mass production is what is the quantity you're doing on a daily basis. I've been to a factory in China, I've been to one in Turkey, and when people say they can produce 1,500 shirts, you know, in an hour, and it's not a really big factory, you know, then you start wondering what kind of competition do you want to have in the international space? The only thing you hold to yourself at that point in time is now your designs, and hopefully you can break those grounds and push it like that. But the cost of production already at that level is already really high for you to play in that field. Now, when you finally decide to play in the field, as it comes to that, you are going to incur a lot of the capital to get to the point that you can play in the field is a lot. Now, don't get me wrong, it is possible. It's not like it's a ridiculous. But those guys international, what they do pretty much is do a design, ship it off to the East. It's mass produced in China and distributed to the world. Okay? We here, we try to produce everything ourselves. When you produce your things overseas, people look at you funny and like, oh, it's not done here, so it's not really this. But you're trying to redefine a model that is international and has worked. And you want to play international, but you want to use a different model to play international. Because it's not just power that is the issue. It's facilities that is the issue. It's skill gap that is the issue, okay? For someone to be able to operate a laser cutting machine in Nigeria, he doesn't know where to start from because he has not used that, you know? Even away from that, the machines that we use here, if something goes wrong with one of your like serious machines, I have a suit buttonhole machine. He only does buttonholes for suits. And it cost me over 6.6 naira to get the machine, okay? I only bought the machine because I could get service for it here in Nigeria from the guys that sold it to me. If you buy machines randomly, if you can't get service for the machine and it goes bad, you have to fly somebody in from somewhere to fix that machine for you because the guys that want to fix it for you do not know how it works, okay? So there are electric irons for industrial purposes that cost 1 million naira. If that thing goes bad, who's going to fix it? Is it Jafar from the area that's going to fix that thing, right? Then, so there's also the gap when it comes to, okay, yeah, your pattern makers. Who's your pattern maker? Do they understand this? Are they up to the level? So overseas, you have fashion schools that graduate people on a daily basis. These guys work back ends for top designers. They're not the designers themselves. And the skill level is always up every single year and is moving with technology, okay? We are not doing that. We're not even up to that level. But there's no reason to even get there because you are not even doing things for that volume and that quantity. So you're doing things in a colloquial way, but trying to play international. So that's where I see. But the breakthrough is going to come whereby you have designers who are now renowned and doing stuff that can be international, okay, and seen in that light. So you have like someone like Kenneth Eze, who's going to design a collection for with Karl Lagerfeld. That's like a major breakthrough in fashion. Or Ogunlesi girl that is going to be working with Kanye on Gap. That's like major breakthroughs for us. if those guys tomorrow step aside and design things, those things can go international. But I can almost tell you for free that the manufacturing may not even be here for them to play in the international space. You know, try to work with customs in Nigeria to bring things into this country and get things out of this country. Dude, you would give up. Do you get what I mean? So when the environment doesn't actually foster the growth in more of a business term, not in terms of design, we are amazing designers. We have great ideas. We can bring this. But when your tailor cannot finish it the way you want it to be finished, what do? You get what I mean? I always tell people, if you want to be a designer in Nigeria and you want to really make it properly, to be honest with yourself, your production will probably be out of this country.
I have to say, I agree with a lot of what Maya is saying. A lot of things he said is completely correct. You know, and I feel like, you know, international should really not even be the focus for the local brands. I don't know whether you agree with that or you disagree, Maya. But I feel like, you know, it shouldn't be, because whilst you have all of those different people you mentioned that have had international success, they are one in a million. You know, they are few and far between. And we just here, we don't have the infrastructure yet provided for people like Maya to be able to do this in a cost-effective way. I have an international brand, Hugo Boss, where, for example, now with the devaluation and a few things that have affected us in different ways, we have to be creative in how we manage the business. And someone like Maya, who creates these beautiful suits and this, you know, different things, instead of taking on the suit collection, where by the time it comes in here, it costs, I don't know what it used to cost, let me not throw the prices of the suits around, but if you can imagine when it was 150 to whatever it is, I don't know how much suits are, but
470 as of this morning.
Just how much? 170.
470. The dollar to naira is 470. As of this morning.
So from what it used to cost before to what it is today, it is not you know, profitable. It is not, doesn't make sense in terms of dealing with the margins of the business and trying to get the goods in for us to bring in that collection. So we have to select what we can bring in, that we can get the right price point in the stores. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have the customer. The end consumer still wants this product. And we could then say, okay, you know what, Maya, produce for us. And in that way, even with our multi-brand, but he would still have to go out there, go and make the things outside to get the finishing that is needed to match these brands. So, you know, it is an incredible challenge what he's talking about, but I still believe that the local brands, you know, we've worked with local brands in the multi-brand that we did. And like he also mentioned, there's a lot more to do with retail than just when you get to the end. When you get to the end, it's like show business. The technicalities behind it is quite a lot. And the designers do not have the skill sets, or they don't have the knowledge, or they don't have the funding to be able to, or the access to the funding. Funding is there, but the access to the funding to be able to get themselves to that stage where you can stay shoulder to shoulder with these international brands. So you know, in terms of trying to say, let me take a local brand and globalize it, I think that there is a huge challenge there. We should be concentrating on finding a way to make it work within our markets.
Okay. Wabi, what do you think?
A lot have been said, and I perceive this tone of negativity, or just like giving up even before trying, in the sense that we are part of a creative industry. So we create, that's what we do. That's why people know us. That's why people follow us. And yeah, it's true. Nigeria is hard. Africa is hard. Like, for things to come through in Africa, it takes a while. But at the same time, from a Western point of view, okay, I believe there's this power play, which somehow is also in our minds. We have not sold the fashion industry in Africa to a Western brand for them to refuse or reject. We just say, oh, they're not gonna like it, or oh, before we get to where they are, it's gonna take us too much, and then we just drop the thing there and we give up and be like, oh, you know what, it's better if I just stay within my country and I don't even explore. Okay, now when we see, for example, there's Stella McCartney. She did an Ankara collection, which, to be honest, like, I'm not bashing anyone, but an African person, a Nigerian person, is in his right senses would never wear such things because they were not attractive. And she never gave credit to Africa. She never gave credit to Nigeria, nothing whatsoever. Okay.
Because Ankara is not for us. She didn't have to give us any credit for that.
But she took the inspiration from Africa because African people are known for wearing Ankara.
Ankara is not for Africa. It's made in Holland. It's made in Holland. They claim it's inspired by us. We don't weave it here. We don't manufacture it in Nigeria. It was brought from there and we adopted it. It's done with cotton. Yes, there's nothing African about Ankara. This is exactly what the white man has sold to us that we are accepting with Ankara.
So what is African, what do African wear?
That is the first question we ask ourselves. Our showcase, you're closest to African because you actually weave it in Ogun State. But I can tell you for free, we have more Ashoke from China in Nigeria right now. I can tell you specifically, after every fashion show anywhere in the world, there is a show, there's a what you call a showroom where you actually sell your garments to stores overseas. The guys do not come to the Nigerian designers. You know why? They claim you cannot deliver to the quality they want and to the volume they want. It has happened to a friend of mine twice in Paris. They walk past you. They use your narrative as Africa to sell fashion, but they don't buy your products. Okay? And that is the reality of it all. They use the narrative of Africa. Africa is a cool brand. Sorry?
Like, my question is, how many African designers or stylists have questioned them or went to them and say, why are you passing through me and you're taking my narrative but you're not collaborating with me?
Specifically, you walk into a showroom so she can get heard, and what the showroom owner gets designers into a showroom. This is what happens overseas after fashion shows. They get designers into a showroom and try to sell the things on your behalf to stores, okay? And the feedback they get from African designers that you cannot produce to the quality and the turnaround time is too long. So what the showrooms are offering is, tell me what African design you like, we will produce it for you because the Africans can deliver to the volume and to the standard. It is not bashing, it is realistic because what has happened is that overseas, the government are provided enabling environment for the fashion industry to foster. It hasn't happened like that because at the end of the day, I generate power for myself. My power bill alone is close to 8 million a month, right? I have 30 tailors. I brought a master tailor from Sabi Road to Nigeria twice for 2 weeks to train my people. I've gone to Milan to study. So I want to make it work. But I can't make the industry work if the key stakeholders wouldn't come to support you, right?
Yeah.
Ayo was correct. There is the fund, but the access is terrible. If you go to the Bank of Industry that gives you 9% interest rate, they won't give you working capital. They want to buy you machines, okay? Now, that's not my problem. I need working capital. A collection for bride that cost me 6 million naira. And I have to push it myself. So when the environment is not enabling, even if you have a factory in Nigeria, you will not compare your cost of production to a factory in China. If you're a businessman, you would do business and not think of supporting culture. So what I'm saying is not a cry for, oh my God, I'm being beaten and blue. It is documented empirical data of things that we have tried to do from here over there. I still sell a good 20% of my clothes to Africans in the diaspora as I speak. And I earn that money in pounds and in dollars, and it is sweet, okay? And I will keep doing that till I can make it. But to trust me, even in the States, in Paris and in the UK, they have a council. The council is supported by the government and provides things for them to work better. The difference between 9% and a grant.
So
Sorry?
now, which is what the West African Fashion Council is trying to do. We are trying to create
that's
a
trying to. And I can swear down, when it gets to the nuts of it, to the core of what you're trying to do, then you have to revisit, because I've tried to join councils to make this thing work. Do you know how difficult it is to ship your things from where you are to Congo, from Nigeria to Congo? You can get things to China to and fro 2 times before you can get to Congo. So that is an African issue.
What you're saying, I understand perfectly what you're saying. Okay, and up until now, we have not had a council, as you said. Okay, we have not had a council, and we are just starting. But I can assure you that we do have people that would go above and beyond to create an environment.
You see, I think what the most important thing is to understand that we need to have it's not really refusing what you're doing, but a collaborative effort from all of us to ensure that this would work. And also, I still stand by the fact that I think that the local brands need to not focus on international. It is not necessary to try and get yourself out there and try and say, oh, as a local brand, let me go and be global. Focus inwards. Let it work within our own environment. Let the process work. Let the funding work. You know, for you to take a brand as a local brand and say you want to take it international, there's a lot behind it. It's not just, oh, wow, this person is fantastic and you can do the best thing. There's backing, which is why you find that even if you go to a place like Japan or anywhere else, the companies, the brands that can work are the big brands, the Louis Vuitton, the Stella McCartney, like you're saying, because they have backing to go with what it is they're chasing. They cannot just step into Japan and, you know, without that. You can't, even in Europe, within Europe, you still struggle to find somewhere from somewhere else trying to come into the UK. It's almost with the same as, you know, the movie industry, where actors from the UK will struggle to make it in Hollywood because you will not be fully accepted immediately. You're more likely to make it in your home, your own local place before you go off there. We need to let it work on our own turf. We need to focus on trying to get things working. What Maya is saying is so true. He is speaking for many. And I think it's really important to hear what he's saying, because just like I said, as a person who owns international franchises, I would love to work with the local brands to be able to do more and to have them next to each other. But how can you, if they struggle to do these things, struggle to be able to deliver on the things that create that comparison between themselves and international brands?
And we're not giving up.
But I feel like
we're not giving up at all. We're stating the problem, but we're not giving up. So don't make it. We're definitely not giving up.
I'm not saying that anybody is giving up. I'm not using the word giving up, okay? But the mindset, for me, personally, I believe the mindset matters a lot, okay? And if the moment where we say, oh, they made it, or China is doing it better, that's true. A lot of brands, even Western brands and everything, okay, they produce in China. They may not say it, they may not state it, but they produce in China because the cost of handwork is really low, okay? Which is something that technically even Nigerian brands could do, African brands could do. And there's nothing bad in that. But it's the fact that I believe there's no unity among even like the brands in Africa. It's like, oh, that person is doing this, but I don't want to give him or her the recognition, because if not, nobody's going to look at me, and then they'll all look at that person. It's like there needs to be a unifying body that puts everyone under the same roof. And then in a case like that, where everybody's under the same roof and they start, you see that you now begin to get recognition from other organizations outside of Africa. But if we think of, oh, I want to get recognition just for my own brand, it's hard. It's never going to work. Unity for me is everything, I believe.
And you're spot on, and that's why I said there's a lot that sits on the hands of the government. And I'll say why I said the government. It's like with the telcos, there's a government body that regulates them and ensures that it works well and fines them when things are wrong. Okay. For the banks, there's one, right? For fashion, there's none. So because the government hasn't taking these things seriously.
Mai, do you think we need the government interference in fashion?
I think, I tell you, you definitely do, because that's the way you will break grounds and talk international trade and international production. That's how you will talk about custom duties and taxes, that it would make sense. If you decide to put an 80% fee on taxes and duties for things coming overseas, because you know you can actually produce them locally, and it comes to the quality, like Aya was saying, she will look inwards. If she can actually decide and look and say, I can get the quality that I want, the consistency that I want, right, from a local brand every time that I want it, she will probably stock and put the brand as premium because the brand can deliver to that quality, right? 100%. But that is the problem. I can't even assure you that quality consistently. I can't. Do you get what I mean? Even me, with my experience in bespoke, right? I can't assure that consistently because I have to be the one measuring it to ensure that it is consistent. Now, to hire people with the behavior, you see, your tailors in Nigeria are tailors because there's no other option, not because they actually love the craft. Do you understand? If you give them a chance, and I interview tailors all the time, if I give you a chance to be a banker, would you go? They will say yes. But when you have tailors overseas, sometimes that's their pride and their joy. That's what they want to do. Now, in a factory system, it's a different thing. So for you to say that I'm going to get a company, I've spoken to companies that want to set up. I've tried to set up a factory in this country before. The costs to do that without government giving you a rebate and cutting down things for you and supporting you from one political tenure of 4 years to the next political tenure of 4 years. Dude, you're in trouble. I mean, look at the story of Gokada. That's exactly what happened. There was a handshake when they started. You guys are great. They woke up one morning and banned all the Okadas, forgetting that that guy had invested so much money. Do you get what I mean? So what I'm saying is that there has to be, if the government doesn't look at you as an industry that they can be corrupt with or they can get kickbacks from, they wouldn't look at you. Nollywood is one of the industry that I say has tried, because you know what? They have to prove the onion themselves. They have to prove they were making the money by themselves individually, before the government started to look at them and start saying, oh, Nollywood is this, and doing the sing and dance that they do around Nollywood right now. But it wasn't like that.
Yeah, but in terms of the music and Nollywood industry, how much has the government done to take Nollywood and the music industry out of Africa and into the world?
Not a lot. It is the individual efforts
so why are you trying to say
that are surmounted today.
So if I
because as a fashion designer, let me quickly say, as a fashion designer, right? I'll tell you something. With music, you don't buy music in Nigeria alone. The number of people that download songs overseas make more revenue than the guys that download in Nigeria. So by that, they are selling more international immediately.
But so that's because they paved their way.
No, not because they paved their way. You are selling a product.
We cannot always say, oh, the government is at fault. Yeah, I understand and I agree that the government in Nigeria is horrible, okay? And I believe personally that they need to create just a foundation, okay, for stylists and people in the fashion industry to build upon. The fashion industry in Nigeria, just like Nollywood, just like the music industry, needs to be privatized, because the moment the government puts their hand in it, nothing goes well. And we can see it how Nigeria is right now.
I tell you, Nollywood and music.
Let me just say something on that. It is really not about
Nollywood and music. Their saving grace was digital. You have Omoni here.
I'm here. We're talking about Nollywood. We don't have. The truth is, we're not even where we want to be. We're not even close. We're a mile away. If what I'm doing in Nollywood right now, if I were doing that in Hollywood, guys, I would be a billionaire. I would have a private jet. No kidding. I have a friend who says,
what helps your distribution?
I'm constantly working, yet I'm still complaining about bills and this and that. I'm not supposed to be complaining at this stage of my career. I should be a billionaire. But Nigeria, as it is, we don't have an enabling environment, period. It is what it is. We're not going to run away.
Omoni,
Yeah, but I do believe that at least Nollywood did make progress. We have seen.
Can I say something? I think we, in summary, all of us are almost pointing to the same thing, where we need the government. I mean, I don't know if you are, because Wabi, this is something I want you to understand. It's not about the government getting involved in the intricacies of the business. Same with the industry of Nollywood. It's not about the government. It's about the backing. It's about giving us access to the funding that they have there's so many
enabling environment.
It all boils down to that at the end of the day, an enabling environment.
Exactly.
I don't need the government to form some institution.
Enabling environment.
We don't need it. We've been doing things our way for decades. And
Exactly.
come even without an enabling environment. Just imagine if all we had, and all businesses in Nigeria, it's the same thing. We're going around in circles, but we're going to come back to that same point. We do not have an enabling environment. It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's it.
So if I might interject,
let me quickly talk about Nollywood for a second. You can definitely say
the consistency in Nollywood made Nollywood tap out of just being something that, oh, it's in Nigeria. Like now you actually have grades to Nollywood. The movies you see on YouTube are not of the same quality as the ones you see on iRoco or on Netflix. So it's still consistency.
No doubt.
You're missing something. You're missing something. And let me say, you're not comparing apples with apples. So with Nollywood now, you have distribution channels, right? So regardless of selling in Nigeria, you can sell anywhere in the world. Omoni can sell her one movie to several platforms. It's not the same with fashion. Okay? Yeah. With music, there's digital. So you can ignore Nigeria and release a track that people love organically, and you will make money from YouTube, from streaming platforms. It's not even that for fashion. There's no distribution. So you have to manufacture, produce, distribute, PR, market. They do that too, but the luck that they have is that their product can be digital. And because it's digital, it can be on platforms. For you to get your clothing on platforms, it's a different conversation. Buyers, trunk shows, you have to be there physically with the garments. Do you get what I mean? So that's the difference. What we are saying is that push your craft, push your design, you do all that. But as it is right now, there's a lot more that goes. I talked about it. There's logistics, there's photography, there's e-commerce, there's all that before your thing can lead Nigeria. So our product is still rooted in actual goods. It is physical. But with the movie industry, it is digital. Omoni can visit the same movie that she has and sold 4 years ago, can sell it to a new person today, again,
that's happening now.
Send it with a hard drive. So, and what has gotten them there is not Nigeria. The not enabling environment in Nigeria is still messing them up. But luckily, world has advanced to a point whereby Omoni's movie can actually be seen in Yugoslavia while she's still seated in a house in Lagos. That has happened. So for us to be able to do that, we have to break what is pretty much normal. How do you get my shirt from here to Yugoslavia? The cost to Yugoslavia is already 10 times the cost of my shirt. So I'm stopping there. Now, to break the deal, for me to be able to sell to Yugoslavia, I can't go and have conversation with the Trade Commission in Yugoslavia. My government has to say, how can we work together? That is what AGOA is. And that's what has helped some businesses shipping things to the States. If you ship your garment from here to the States and ship one from here to Senegal, trust me, it will get to the States before it gets to Senegal. DHL. Try it out. That's to tell you what has happened. So our problem, because we have physical stuff, is a lot more complex than that. Our designers are amazing. In terms of concepts and designs, we would win the race. But at the end of the day, now come back to proper business now. How can you get this over there? If we couldn't use computers in Africa now, Nollywood will still be backwards. Do you get what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But because computer is there, there's internet, there's digital, we're moving. And that's why I went back to my initial idea. It's like, with digital, you can do laser cutting. Who is going to laser cut for you right now in Nigeria if I bought 10 laser cut machines? Someone that couldn't hardly use a scissors. So I'm saying the gap is a lot. We have to do, but we need help to even get the little things done in fashion, because the industry is crazy. How well can you make a white shirt than somebody in China? But Omoni is telling our own story. Afrobeat is originally ours. And that's the question I always ask. What is African fashion? What is really ours? Because fashion is very globalized. What is really ours? What you wear to work every morning, you wear a suit. Do we change that suit to kaftan in Nigeria so everybody wears a kaftan? Do you know? I don't know. There's so much that goes into it. It's a huge bubble. So creativity, on one hand, be it music or be it movies, to a large extent, you're telling African stories. What is our African garments? Is it going to be Boba and Rapper we want to sell to the world? Will they buy it? We push that. And is it about pushing it or being authentic to yourself? I like to make suits. I like to wear suits. They are Western, but that's what I like to do.
May, let me ask you.
Did I change my narrative?
Let me ask you a question, May. What would create that success for you? Is it being able to get your goods and have them outside your market, or to actually make the success on ground in the market? Just so that I can...
Oh no, for me, it's on the ground. Africa is bigger. It's probably the biggest market for fashion. I mean, you look at it right now, people are trying to encroach into us. So this is a big market. And that's why I'm saying things like, even me, as I'm here right now, I have customers in Senegal that I cannot even deal with, because to get things directed to Senegal is a problem. There's a flight that leaves at 9 o'clock every morning. I have to put things inside there. You have to drive people to take your stuff in there. If I claim Africa, I've always said this, I don't want to go anywhere else in the world. I would
Which
deal
is
with
why
the
I wanted
50
Wabi
million of
to
the continent.
We need to sort of have one voice when we're dealing with this sort of thing, which is what I was trying to explain to Wabi. I'm not sure if you heard that the mission and the aim is to try to get that support to be able to do it on ground, to have the success on ground. Yes, it's wonderful to be global, but we have a huge market here. We have a huge market in Africa. Why can't we try and focus on trying to get this success inwards rather than looking outwards?
Okay, Mrs. Ayo, I wanted to quickly ask you something. You've dealt with luxury brands, right? Now, from my little experience, government specifically hasn't really done anything for the music industry. At least I have a little bit of experience in that regard. But when it now comes to the fact that you are a technocrat, if we're having issues with the commerce of the business of fashion, and you've dealt with luxury brands, have you considered, creating an infrastructure that would even deal with the commerce or the distribution?
Infrastructure is great. It is needed. Without a doubt, everyone talks about this. But the truth is, without the support of the government, without the support of and the access to the funding to be able to push these things in place so that we can create the platform, it would be a dream of mine for us to be able to have something where we can build a factory, even together, where you can have these brands all be there to be able to create the quality products that you can get internationally and have it here on ground. But how do you get it? How do you get it done? When you abroad, there's interest rates of 5%, 3.5%. But aside, even with that, you have BOI giving you 9%, which is great. BOI has been fantastic for us in the movie business. They've been, we've got BOI money. And I think anyone who wants to, they are very easy to work with. Because, aside from the fact that, of course, when you get to the stage of bank guarantee, it starts to become a challenge. Omoni is smiling.
Omoni, do you have BOI? Omoni, do you have BOI's money? They haven't invested.
Don't.
Yeah. Why don't you have it? Because you don't want
it. Because they want to give me money for what I want it for. They want to give me money to make film. That's not my problem. See, we're back to the same thing I was talking about. If you want
not only BOI.
Money to make film. I've been making films for a while, which means I have running capital for film, for the actual production. Now I want money to buy more equipment, and you don't want to give me that because you have certain studios that you have given money to for equipment, and you just want to keep it that way. Can you see how the government as well still stifles us? You're forcing money for film. I don't want money for film. You call me to have a conversation about giving me money, but you want me to take the money for a certain purpose. That's not what I need money for.
They want the film because they will have the master for the film and they can get the money from the film and that's it. So it's not even about supporting.
What would you say you need money for? What would you say you need money for?
What do you need money for?
I want to buy more equipment.
See me now.
But Omoni, BOI gives you money for equipment.
BOI they want to give me money for film. They already have studios that they've given money for equipment to, and they don't want to give more money for equipment. They just
it's
want
not that they don't give money for equipment, it's that they feel they might have reached their quota.
No, I don't think so. I honestly don't think so.
They give us money for equipment, but don't give us money to run business.
But there are other avenues to get money. With CBN, there's the Creative Fund. The issue is access to these funds. That is the issue. That, if you look at what CBN offers, there's a whole load of things. You can have up to 100 ways that tell you they can support the industry.
But you can't get it though.
Can't get it. And I think they need to get to the realization that developing these industries is intrinsic to the economic development of the country. So they cannot really get that development without actually helping out and making those funds available for us to develop the platforms. So
do we have, Mrs. Ayo, do we have private-public participation happening right now? I mean, from your experience, in terms of how you've even gone about setting up your own infrastructure based on the platforms you have, do we have that? Because that's the only way sometimes I see that we could get government involved. Do we have private people that are prepared to come on board and say, we need to develop this industry, but we need the support? How far has that conversation happened?
I think there are people ready to come together and say we need to develop an industry with the support of the government. The only issue is that support of the government. And with that support, it will accelerate all of the mission. I think in the retail industry, there is that. We have the collaborative efforts, even in the cinema industry, in the movie industry. There's different groups of people who are ready to come together to be able to develop this industry and make it a success.
Those racks of clothes in the section. Can you take them to
my businessman.
We had the money. We saw the money coming in. So you can't
I am here.
That money, my.
They're bringing my lunch. I'll share with you. Where
are we? Where are we in the movie industry as of today? Where would you say now? I've had fashion. There is no skill set. There's a major gap. We need government participation. I don't say no skill set. Come on now, there's skill set. Okay, there is minute skill sets, right? Or the skill set is not developing as quickly or as fast as we would want it to develop, right? But when it comes to the movies, where are we? In the last few years, I can say that the movie industry has developed in terms of talent. But where would you rate it now? Where would you say this is where we are? What are the parameters when you make movies that you want to take to the cinemas? What are the parameters? What do you look at, when you try to do that?
I mean, we're not going to sit here and lie. We have grown in leaps and bounds. And I'm sure you can attest to that. We're years from where we're coming. I mean, we're not where we want to be, obviously, but we have grown a lot, a great deal in the last decade or more. Where we are right now, I think we're at a point where we're almost ready to, I don't want to sound like I'm blowing our trumpet, but we're almost ready to compete globally with, in terms of best practices. There are production companies in Nigeria, mine included, that know what they're doing, that are ready to play on the global scale, that are ready to, move Nollywood to where it's supposed to be, So I would say that we're ready. We've been preparing for a while. You know how they say, be prepared, because time and chance happens for everyone, So we've been preparing for a while. And I would say that the time is now for Nollywood to take its place on the globe, like really take its place on the global scale. I mean, for years, they've said, oh, you're the second largest, you're the third largest, you're the second largest. It was in terms of just the sheer number of movies we were churning out. It wasn't because we were the best, so to speak, right? But now, I think that we're really ready, all the years of practice, so to speak, I think we're really ready to take our place. Because the truth is, and I don't say this lightly, we have better stories. Every single story in Hollywood has been told. They just keep recycling stories, but we still have original stories. You know, Africans are storytellers. That's who we are. We are storytellers, you know. I mean, even as a kid, going to see my grandmother in the village, you would sit down under the moonlight and they'll tell you all sorts of stories, you know. A lot of those stories, we've not even told them yet, and they were amazing stories, you know. So we still have so much. I feel like we're really just starting, you know, where Hollywood is almost sort of has peaked or is saturated, where it's now the same story just told in different ways over and over and over again, and you can just, I mean, I hear when people say, oh, Nollywood movies, you can tell the end from the beginning. Oh, it's so predictable. And I say to them, I don't understand. Every single Hollywood movie I watched, I knew what was going to happen at the end. I mean, Batman, Superman, you know the hero is going to win. The villain will die. There is no other way, you understand? If it's a love story, the man will get the woman at the end of the day. It is what it is. I know the end from the beginning. What it is, though, is you're enjoying the journey to the end. That's why you feel fulfilled. And then you watch some Nollywood movies. Yes, you know the end from the beginning, but you probably didn't enjoy the journey, so you're upset and you said, "Oh, I knew the end from the beginning." No, that's not your problem. So I feel like we're at a point in history where we're uniquely positioned to, I don't want to say take over because we're not really taking over anything. We're uniquely positioned to show the world what we're really made of, to show the world that Africans as storytellers, this is what we do. And we're in a better position actually because we have more stories, we have more original stories. The world doesn't really have that many original stories anymore, but we still do. So yeah, we're in a great position right now. Again, if we had more help, or if we had more of an enabling environment, then just imagine what Nollywood would do. Just imagine if we had a government or an environment that was half, I don't even need half, give me 25% of what they have in Hollywood. I would make movies that would blow the world, you know, but it is what it is. We've worked solely for a long time, for decades, and we've gotten used to doing that. So I believe that we'll still make the best out of, you know, where we are right now.
Okay.
Omoni, can I ask a question?
Sure.
We see that I think last month or thereabout, Genevieve Nnaji is now part of the Oscars Academy. So like in terms of film and Nollywood, do you think her position and her role will make some movies be nominated for Oscars or even win an Oscar?
I'm not sure, to be honest, if her being there means that more Nollywood movies will be considered. So there is, every country who is serious about the Oscars is supposed to have an Oscar committee. So that country has their own Oscar committee, right? So that Oscar committee would select a movie from that country that they will submit to the Oscars, right? So that movie has to meet certain criteria because, I mean, Oscars, they have their criteria. They've had it for decades. You know, your country is not going to come change anything. So every country would have to submit their own film, right? So it doesn't necessarily matter if you have someone from that country in the general Oscar, you know what I mean? But your country has to submit something, and that movie has to meet the Oscar criteria. So if your country doesn't submit anything, it doesn't matter who's there. Or if the movie doesn't meet the criteria, it doesn't matter who's there.
Okay.
When we produce content, I mean, from your production and directorial experience, are we going to look at new ways of producing content, or we're going to stick to how we produce it before COVID? Now COVID has happened. Do we go from long formats to short formats? Do we do snippets? Would that affect your bottom line? I mean, would that take a hit on your production and the direction you're going based on, you know, from a director's point of view?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if I were going to shoot a movie today, I would first of all have to get everyone together. So the cast, the crew, even the extras, because I mean, if you have to interact with them, obviously you have to make sure you test everyone for COVID and house. Okay, so you have to give everyone accommodation, and you have to make sure everyone is in the same space for the period of the shoot. So you've done the test and nobody leaves for the period of the shoot, right? So what ends up happening is your movie or your production becomes way more expensive. First of all, you're gonna spend money testing everyone. Here it's like 50,000 naira for the real COVID-19 test per person. Imagine shooting a movie like Love is War right now. I mean, a political drama with a huge cast, with like hundreds of extras. So that would mean that I would not be able to shoot that kind of film right now. So in a way, it's maybe stifling creativity, because now I have to think, what kind of film am I able to shoot? I don't want a crew, or I don't want a cast that will be more than 50 people, for instance, including crew, right? Including the day actors. Now my crew, I mean, crew is you can manage, because even before now, we normally accommodate crew. So we give them accommodation, right? But the actors, if they live in Lagos, they come from home. If you're shooting in Lagos, for instance, they will come from home. The extras will come from home, right? But now you have to accommodate everybody. You have to test everybody. You have to make sure the locations that you're going to shoot, you have an advanced party that would go there, and I don't know what they call that thing, fumigate or whatever it is, whatever it is they do, right? So that has increased your budget a great deal, so obviously it's a cause for concern. It's a huge cause for concern.
Okay, Mrs. Ayo, how is this going to work? The bottom line, this has affected the bottom line entirely. I know you might not be entirely looking at the digital space when it comes to the movie aspect, but are you now, or did you ever consider putting some sort of investment behind your own production, based on the type of movies that you're allowed to go into your cinemas?
we're not in production. So we are basically we house the cinemas, the movies to come into our sites. But I have to come back 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, so we basically will not, we would take on any movies that come onto our cinemas, as long as, we are able to provide that entertainment to the customers. Sorry about this. I'm in the middle of another meeting, so I'm just going to step away for 2 minutes, and I'll be back.
Okay, that's fine. Mai, I have a question from one of the guests, and let me read it verbatim. Hi, Mai, from Bolaji Oyemade. He says, hi, Mai, could you clarify your point about designing in Nigeria and producing in Asia? I think he needs more insight around the period you were speaking about laser cutting. And also we going to produce in Asia as against producing massively in Nigeria. So he was trying to get more clarification.
Oh, what I was trying to say, I was just trying to compare two things. Saying that most big designers that we know, be it Ralph Lauren or wherever they are, they design in their countries and they mass produce these garments in Asia and export back to their country. And I said that if you want to be a big designer of that status in Nigeria, and you want to play international, that may be something you want to do, because obviously your cost of production will be a lot cheaper. Now, I'm not saying that's the way that everybody does. That's not the way that I do right now. there is also an opportunity for you to be able to do that, because obviously it's baby steps. So I don't think that anybody is ordering 500,000 pieces from you right now in Nigeria. If it's 3,000 pieces, it's 2,000 pieces. If you have that consistently, you can graduate that under what you can manage, you can go with it. So I was just trying to compare. Then secondly, about the laser cutting thing, I mean, we know that, we cut with scissors. There's also the machine that cuts through thick fabric, and it cuts through the fabric with the pattern. But I have seen laser cutters, and I saw them in China, where they use laser cutters to literally cut fabric. So the fabrics are loaded, the pattern is programmed into the machine, and the laser cutter literally just goes, and it's like little sparks to just like literally cut the fabric. It is razor sharp and very clinical, and it works very well when you have fabrics that have patterns. So it's cutting it in the right places where everything fits everything properly, and that's what it is about the laser cutting. I was like, so if we have to get factories to that level in Nigeria, is who's going to operate that machine, and who has been trained to operate the machine. And since those things cut really fast, if you train one guy and it's one machine, and he cuts 300 fabrics in a day, then it's probably going to sit down for the next year or the next month, rest of the month, not doing anything. So I'm thinking that it's a balance, and I think it's a gradual process that we should take. It's almost like, setting up one. I think back and think that we do not have technical colleges anymore in Nigeria. Those days you have technical colleges that deal with technical expertise, and those technical colleges gave birth to the tailors and to the engineers. They were not the educational engineers that will now work in management roles. They were the ones that actually did the job, and we don't have that. So if you have technical colleges, that we can begin to bridge the gap, and these guys have been to train. So when I always ask for government interference, is that if someone starts to do this as a partnership with the government and says, I'm setting up a factory, what can you do to ensure that you collaborate my efforts? So a good example is like African prints on Ankara. The way we rock it in Nigeria, other African countries do not do it as well as we do it. And you find out that they now copy our styles in those countries. Stops us from being the hub of manufacturing those things here and pushing out. Just the same way you go to Alibaba, brings it back and sends to you. Half the time, the people that you interact with are not the ones that have the capacity to produce. They're like international customer service facing people because they speak English, but they go to the back end to get this thing done. I've seen the same in Hong Kong when it comes to suit making. You have 50 guys on the street begging you to make suits, but they all go to the same factory to get the suit done. And they can turn around the suit.
May, can I ask you a question?
I was trying to explain. It was more for comparison and understanding that advancement in fashion technology is gone far.
Okay. Mrs. Ayo, you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to ask May a question. What is it that you would require that you feel would make your business thrive to where you want it to be? If you could just, because you talk about the machines.
And for me right now,
go ahead.
For me right now, if there's anything I would want urgently, if I was to put my finger, power is a general thing in Nigeria, so that's not particular to my it would definitely be expertise in terms of some specific things. So if like in suit making, it is that expertise to be able to produce that the way it is. Now, I've actually gone ahead and I got someone to come and train, but the rate in which tailors kind of like run away from you, you have to have that knowledge within yourself. So I'll give you a good thing. Like I have done the breakdown process. Sorry?
So how would you, I'm sorry, there's like a delay on the, I don't know if it's the same for everybody. Yeah, okay. So how do you think that if you say that the expertise you have now, or the people that are supposed to be your tailors don't actually want to do it, how do you think we can create that in this country today? What will encourage it? What will get them to do this as passionately as they do it everywhere else, maybe like in Italy or wherever? What is it that
you know, or are you talking about
what I would do? No, what I would do, based on my understanding of Nigerians, is to have it literally, the breakdown process of one garment is broken down to the smallest, barest minimum, that the expertise to make that smallest, barest minimum is this small. So basically, if you are fixing a button, I can train you to fix a button in a week, right? And I pay you a specific amount for fixing buttons, meaning that to fix a button is quite easy, but I've trained you to do it. So if you leave tomorrow, I can fill that roll up in a day or in a week maximum. But what I need you for is this small. So if I decompose all the elements to actually small, minute parts, so I can have people to fill in those gaps as fast as possible, okay? And that means that I have to be technologically advanced to a point whereby to sew an outfit is literally plug in point A to point B, point C to point D, and that way it works out at the end of the day. So I would take what currently exists international and break it down to even smaller, minute things. So you, as a tailor for me or a machinist, do not know what you are contributing to the end picture. You just know you have to put 1 in 2 and pass it on. So what happens in China, I would break down what China is doing, even like 10 times smaller and more granular, because I know the mentality of my people. When they realize that you leave today and someone replaced you tomorrow, they will either take the job seriously or know that they are now very disposable. And that way I can do it. So my breakdown process right now for one jacket is 5 people. If I had the chance, I would make that 10 people, and their expertise level will be more reduced, and I can swap them as I want, so my production is consistent.
So you will break down your sorry, maybe we will talk about this after the thing. I just want to understand.
Okay. It was actually very interesting, because I was going to say, so the capital you need is basically to fund expertise on human capacity, right? So you get more, is it that you get more excellent done jobs, or you get more people turning out more for, like, I'm trying to understand properly what, once
I'm talking from my experience specifically, okay? Yes. So what I'm saying is, like, I'm using the suit making process as one for this example, is that where you have someone that does the flap and someone that does the yoke, or someone that does the cuff and all this thing, I want to be able to break down that process to as minute as possible, so that one checks the other and balances out the other. And when I need expertise, I do not need somebody that is a superstar tailor. When you come in today, all you have to do is put 1 into 2, 1 into 2. That's all you do, then pass it on. When it gets to the next person.
The remainder abroad. So you're saying you would do the remainder, say, you wouldn't do the rest, say, let's say you have 5 steps. You would do 4 out of those 5 steps elsewhere and do the final step in Nigeria.
No, I would do everything here, but instead of having 5 steps, I may have 10 steps. That way, if it's 10 steps, the expertise has now come, the requirement for the person to do the job has come down. So like what I'm really breaking down, like if you're a security guard, right, you talk to the person at the door, you open the door and you usher them in. What if somebody just talks to the person, somebody else opens the door, somebody ushers them in? So your job is to open the door when you hear this sound. That's your job. Then you, when the person comes in, this is what you ask the person. Then you pass the person on. So that way, you don't have to be so reliant. I'm talking because I know the behavior of artisans in Nigeria. So when you break it down to a point whereby their expertise is not so high. So I'll give a specific example. In my process, one person takes the measurement, somebody does the pattern. Once the pattern is done, somebody takes the pattern, cuts the garment. Once someone cuts the garment, someone takes that same garment and does the pockets. Then that person takes that thing and is working on the back, exactly doing the sleeve. When all the complements are done, it's someone's job to actually couple up together. Then someone else does the ironing and the finishing. If someone does the process, the subsequent person knows that this was done wrong and knows who did it wrong. So the suit starts up and it separates, then it comes back together. But everybody, if I have 5 people doing these things, at least 4 of them can make a suit from start to end. But now they're only focusing on a specific part of the suit, right? If 1 person doesn't come to work tomorrow, I can still continue. If 2 do not come to work, I can still continue. If they realize that all they are contributing is a small set to the whole thing, to the whole jigsaw, they are not so empowered to feel like without me, Oga is going to fail. Instead, they will come to work and do their one part. And the more they do their one part, they become experts in that one part that they do not miss a beat. So in doing this, I would have consistency in my delivery. But now I have to develop that way of working, because that way of working is not currently in China or in Turkey, because they still do it in larger bulks. So I want to break down their process even smaller because of my Nigerian people's mentality. Because you can't change mentality. If you're trying to change mentality, we're going to be here. Do you understand what I mean? Okay, so I want to use the way they think to work for me. And I'm going to break down the process gradually. And 1 person, so 1 and 2 does, 3 and 4 is a check for 1 and 2. If 3 and 4 feels like 1 and 2 didn't do it well, they take it back to 1 and 2. 1 and 2 does, it goes to 3 and 4. From 3 and 4, it goes to 5 and 6. 5 and 6 said this wasn't done right, it goes back to 3 and 4 to get it done right. So for you to start, you have to know that the other part has been done correctly because it affects your work. So that's what I will want to come up with to be able to build something. And there was a fund that was going on recently, and I applied for the fund. And part of the thing was also to be able to build satellite working stations where tailors work in their houses and not in my office. So wherever you are in Lagos, you are doing your job. And you have a courier that moves things from place to place, and the final things comes back for quality control. And even though they're going to have cameras and internet data in their place, it's supposed to be some sophisticated thing. We're working with a funding party from the UK. They were trying to look for a way we can work during COVID, whereby people do not have to gather, they can work from where they are. So I applied for the fund, and this was the idea that I was pushing to them. So the only person that moves is the courier person, and everybody works on a satellite point and things are sent around. But that thing needed a lot of funding. So if we get the funding, we may be onto something with that method of working.
Okay. Wabi, I was going to ask you, what are we looking at in terms of, based on your working relationship with TG Maxx for a bit, are we seeing any collaborations, any conversations happening that the Nigerian brands or the African
downstairs, eh? The guy that wants to work, he said he's looking for a screwdriver that he left
lightest penetration in that regard? Might it be coming to a retail store that has TG Maxx or TGXX on it? Like, are we having those conversations through the West African Fashion Council for that to happen?
Wow, that's a tough one. Currently, I still do not see that happening. Why? Because there's still that need of the council to reassert its power or reassert its name, so that people would, in Africa especially, would respect the council and have every organization under the council. So the moment we're able to reach our aim of having every organization under the fashion industry under the council, then we can now be talking of partnerships with retailers outside of Africa. But I feel like the first steps would be having organizations within the fashion industry under the fashion council, and then spreading their works to retailers in Africa before we even step outside of Africa. So the main aim would be, for now, let's focus in Africa.
Okay, great. Ms. Ayo, are you going to be stocking local luxury brands and representing them?
Yes, of course, I'm happy to. As long as the quality and
your brand is luxury. So, like, these are the
I
collaborations
think that's the conversation we are having on the side. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Atafo now available at, you know.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But have you managed? I was going to ask you earlier, Mrs. Ayo, the luxury brands, the local brands, you're representing heavy brands. At what cost is that going on? Like, how does that even happen? Like, do you go pay for franchising fees? Like, compared, you know, if we do your cost analysis, like, it's a lot of investment based on the brands you're representing.
Yes, it is definitely expensive. It's definitely expensive, and you know, this is the issue with when you have a closed economy. You know, when you have an issue with us facing customs and facing all of those issues. Like for example, if I give you an example, we've had some of our goods ordered since February for Puma, and it is still not being cleared. We have clearance issues. We have the banks, you know, and what's it called? We have the banks giving us high interest rates. And, you know, for example, if you look at countries like, say, Ghana, it takes them 7 days. Yet we are here with stock from February, and we have, in fact, we've had to, because we are now low on stock in the stores, we have to order by air freight to be able to get things in, just so that we can satisfy the end consumer and run this business. So it is a challenge. That is why I'm very interested in the local brands, and even having the opportunity to be able to manufacture, or even encourage the international brands to be able to manufacture and produce here. But again, I go back to the same thing where we have those legislative bodies that need to give that support for us to be able to create this opportunity. Because if the effect of all of this is that trickle down, where you are able to have more employees, you're able to train more people, you're able to satisfy more. So yeah, it is challenging, it is risky.
Okay. Mrs. Omoni, if somebody has a question for you, do you think, I guess you answered it earlier, but I don't think he was around. Ayobami is asking, do you think it will get to a point that you will start selling directly to Netflix, Apple, Sony, Amazon Prime before going to the cinemas? You're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm so sorry. Okay, so that's
At
not
least it happened to somebody else but me.
That's not the order of things. So you can't sell to an online platform before you go to the cinema. Once you sell to an online platform, you can't go to the cinema anymore, because if a movie is available to watch online, really anyone can sit in the comfort of their home and watch it. Then they don't need to go to the cinema to watch it. So you have to do the whole cinema experience first before you go online. Now, if the question he's trying to ask is, because of COVID-19, do you think movies will go straight to the online platforms, thereby not going to the cinema at all? Perhaps that would happen if it goes on for much longer than this. If, for instance, we can't go to the cinemas for the next couple of months, then movies would have to go straight to online platforms. If that's the question he's asking, then yes. But you can't go to online platforms and then come back to the cinemas. Once you go online, you can't come back to the cinemas.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just going to run through two more talking points, and I mean, we're rounding up now. Are we in a very disposable industry? Would you regard our industry as being very disposable? The fashion, the movie, the lifestyle. There is a statement that the chief editor of Vogue made, and we were at an era where people ordered and purchased more than they utilized. So do you feel that might happen to this industry? Do you feel people might shop more, or they might shop less now? You know, how badly has things changed? Miss Abby, do you see people walking into the stores retail-wise, or we have more people now going for retail wares because all of a sudden our tradition, like, you know, like Mike said, is to actually purchase based on functions. Now there are no more functions, or there are not as much functions. I think it's going to be, you know, do we have so much that it's going to make us look very disposable?
I believe right now we're still in a transition phase. So there's still some people believing that, oh, we will go back to the old normal. So retail wise, I've seen so many people buy things that they really technically do not need. They do not need. But it's like, oh, I'm buying this dress because I know that once everything goes back to normal, I'll wear it to the next event. And tomorrow they come in and like, oh, I'm buying this other dress because tomorrow or next tomorrow, there's going to be another event that I will go to. But at the same time, there are other people that have been negatively impacted by the pandemic, and they found themselves like not having a job, or they don't have a stable source of income anymore. So they rely on buying only out of necessity. In terms of the creative industry being disposable, I really don't think so. Just because right now, I believe the creative industry is an integral part of the economy, and like it's contributed significantly to the gross domestic product, and as well as is promoting culture and educating so many people outside of Africa. Like now you see people, in terms of like Nollywood, you see actually like Western people watching Nollywood movies because it's available on Netflix. So I don't think it's an industry that's meant to go down, but rather, I think if we look at the positive aspect of the COVID-19 is it has, you know, opened up for other people other than just Africans to have access to the African creative industry.
Mike, are we disposable?
No, I don't think we are. I think at the end of the day, creative people will be creative. And just like what Wabi said, what we do is creativity. So you're going to look for a space in there to definitely do what you have to do. If at the end of the day, where you have literally, you know, planted your house or built your empire, it's not feasible in the current weather. It's either you change or you move on. I think this is just a good example of, you know, people that manufactured cassettes in the good old day. You know, if they stock the cassettes, you know, it will be a problem. Even those that did CDs, if they're still doing CDs, it will be a problem. You know, now we are buying, you know, music digitally, and it's there, movies digitally. So I think that you have to look for that energy on and trying to push that. So I don't think creativity is disposable even in the new normal. And I think we're still trying to understand what the new normal is at the end of the day. You know, we're saying it's the new normal. What is the new normal? Is the new normal you can't go out? Or is it that you're going to go out with caution? Or is it now that we're going to start? Because right now I've seen things around. I've seen a thing called Dr. Whatever that purifies the air around you for 30 days. I've seen another one that does that for 60 days. You don't have to wear a mask or even a shield, and it clears out, you know, any virus around you for that period of time. So is that what it would be? Would every car have a disinfectant spray? Do you get what I mean? The way you have those, your nice perfume sprays that, you know, goes every now and then in your office, would that be a disinfectant now? Would that be what is happening? So I don't think we actually know what the new normal is until we're just going to go with how it's going. Because I am certain that people will go out again every day and gather. Is how that would happen. That's going to be the question. Are we going to wear, is it Hamza to take all those things and go out? I do not know. But people...
Completely agree with you.
I've done so much, it will remain like that. So I think that things will definitely change. So whatever the new normal is, I think it's evolving. The new normal is evolving, and we keep evolving with the new normal. And I think that everybody wants to get back to what they were doing before. So whatever gets you to your destination, you know, you will get back to your destination. So I'm going to definitely go to the cinema and watch a movie. How will that happen? It's going to be for the guys in the cinema to provide the solution, and we will go to the cinema, you know. That's.
And I think, let me just make a point here. I remember, I think it was Omoni who said at the start that we don't really know what it is, and everybody's just watching and waiting to see what it is. But the reality is that, will we ever have a situation where, for example, the artist cannot perform his concerts, or you can't go to an arena for something that is created, or these events that happen, or we stop going, or we don't go for sports, or say we, like for example, we are building an arena that is going to house basketball and, you know, all the different sports and events, and boxing, the UFC fighting. Are we saying, plus the concerts, and even for the Nigerian artists, because now they've taken over even the American artists. Now you know that all these different artists will fill up the stadium before, or fill up an arena before a Beyonce or one of these other people. Now, is that new normal going to be the fact that we cannot go to the concerts any longer, or we can't go to and watch these shows, or these guys can't perform? I think that like I said at the beginning, the reality is we will end up living with this virus until they find whatever solution there is, whether it's the vaccination, whether it's medication. We will end up having to live with it, work with it, and go back to where not exactly we were, but go back to that whole community spirit, that whole human connection, that ability to go out, entertain ourselves, and just live life to as much as we can. That is the future, and that is what the businesses say that we do are going to accommodate by making sure in the cinemas. So when you go to the cinemas, we'll have the social distancing, we'll have all of those things. Currently in the stores, we already abide by those things. As we are current international brands, we already have rules on how we have to have our stores created. So if you have a certain square meter of a store, you have to have a certain number of people that can be there. Plus you have the instruction from, say, Lagos State and every other government that there is. So, you know, that life of going back as close as normal as we can would definitely exist.
Is the industry disposable? Omoni, do you think so?
If by disposable you mean, can it be discarded, or?
Yeah, can we wake up one morning and realize, like Mai just said, we no longer use tapes, we no longer use cassettes, you know, we no longer use you know, LPs, you know, so things has changed. Everybody has switched to digital. There's been platforms. So yes, are we disposable? Yeah.
No, so I don't think so. We're not, definitely, I don't think, I know we're not. So these are just different ways to showcase, right? That's why you wake up one day and there are no more cassettes, and there are no more DVDs, and there are no more VCDs. You know, the world has been going digital for a while, but we were slow to come to terms with it. COVID-19 forced us to come to terms with it, right? You know what? The world is digital, take it or leave it. You know what I mean? So that's what has happened. So are movies going to be there? They're going to be there forever. As long as they're human beings, stories will be told. And we're not going to all have the luxury of sitting under a mango tree, under the moonlight, and, you know, hearing stories told. So we have to tell stories. And if stories are going to be told, they have to, you know, there has to be a form of expression or a form of showing it to the world, you know. So we hope and we pray, especially for Aya's sake, that the cinemas remain. That the cinema, for my sake, no, I know.
All of us together.
For all of us sake, because obviously that's a stream of income that I don't want to do away with, right?
Yeah.
So we hope and we pray that the cinemas remain, and like Mai said, or actually Aya said, life goes back to you know, some sort of way where we can all find a way to cope with this, right? I honestly don't think that there's going to ever be a time in life where humans will not interact at all. You know, there's been viruses before. This is not the first one. It's probably not even going to be the last, you know, so somehow life went back to normal after that period, right? Now, this is happening in our time. That's why it's looking like, oh my gosh, the world is coming to an end. I'm sure when the other viruses happened in their times, they felt that way too. But somehow life went back to normal and we were born and we came into a life that humans interacted with themselves. So I believe we're going to somehow go back to that life, or at least a semblance of that life where we're able to interact with ourselves. Now, are we going to be, we're probably going to be more careful. You know, my friend was saying to me the other day, it was almost like when AIDS and HIV came, and, you know, everyone was just so scared and whatever. But now, you know, there are people living with HIV and they're living long lives. And, you know, now you have to be careful who you're with or where you're going. And you know what I mean? So somehow or the other, we're going to get to a point where life would be normal, so to speak, where we can interact with ourselves again, where we can go out and socialize and be human, because you can't take that away from human beings. We're social beings. It's impossible to live life like this forever. It's completely impossible, you know. So we're going to have to find a way. The world is going to have to find a way for us to have some sort of normalcy. If, like I said, we're going to have those spray things that are, you know, making sure your space is sanitized at all times. If that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. But to say that we're now going to go back to how life was is not possible. So to answer your question, the industry is certainly not disposable. You know, it's going to be there. As long as they're human beings, we're going to have movies, because we love stories. We love to watch stories.
All right, thank you. One of the key things that I would agree with is what you just said. Also, having in mind that I've also realized that it's during crisis that new businesses emerge. So that is why I applaud Mrs. Amusan for trying to create a new business, even in this pandemic, by setting up to go and start a cinema. Michael, that's a lot of money going, but no problem.
The
arena.
Yes, the arena, like it's in crisis and it's in times of pandemic that new businesses come up and people start making money. It's in these times also that we look forward to collaborations. In the next 5 years, I do know things will change, like you said, and I do know things would begin to work totally different from what we're used to. I flew the airport 2 days ago, and I could see for myself what they've adjusted, you know, so things will begin to reshape. I want to say a very big thank you for everybody that has been here. You know, I am honored and privileged to have had this panel with you. But before I hand over to Michael, there is what I call the Creative Quiz 8, right? So this is what I want the panelists to do. Pick a number from 1 to 8. We'll ask a question that I would request you answer immediately. So pick a random number. We'll just go around everybody from 1 to 8. And I'll ask, who wants to go first? Apart from Michael, who wants to go first?
Let me just go and get it over and done with, please.
I know what you said.
You know, what number do you pick, Omoni? Let's start with you.
5.
Okay, what would you regard to be your biggest mistake?
That's how they will not ask me questions that I don't want to answer. Honestly, I don't see mistakes. I see learning points. So every single time that something has looked like a mistake, it's just an opportunity to learn something, you know. So I really can't say this was a. I would just say that I had an opportunity to learn. So I really don't see mistakes. I've had hundreds of opportunities to learn something new, to unlearn something, to relearn. You know, I don't see mistakes.
Okay, Wabi.
I would pick number 8.
Number 8. What would you tell your 12-year-old self?
Oh.
Tell your 12-year-old self.
Do I even remember? Okay, let me think. I think I would, okay, mind you, I was born and raised in Italy, so what I'm about to say may not sound sensible somehow, but when you grow up with white people, you kind of hate yourself, you hate your skin. So I would tell myself, love yourself, love your skin, be proud of your origin, and be proud of where you come from, because one day you would actually work in an environment where you're surrounded by Black people and you're doing good and excellent.
Okay.
That's what I would do. Yeah.
Okay. Why? What number?
Before you said it, I'll pick number 1.
Okay, so tell me, what frequency do you operate on? Love or fear?
Oh, yeah, love.
Asked you at what frequency do you operate on?
Love or fear?
Love or fear?
Oh, fear.
Did you say fear?
I said fear, yeah.
Why? Why fear?
That's a very interesting one. I don't know how to explain this. I think the fear of something is a motivation to do it. So every time I've always tried to imagine myself when I got my first job, I kept saying that the fear of being unemployed was my biggest fear, because if I'm not employed, I won't get any money, poor for life. So that led me to acquire experience in every single thing that I saw and I encountered, okay? And that has made me somewhat versatile. And that was because of the fear of failure. And that's led me to where I am today. And also little things like, because I do quite a few things. I mean, and Omoni know ourselves from different corners of the world, you know. So I'm marketing professionally. I also done advertising. I'm into fashion right now. I've written 2 movie scripts, even if they're not like, you know, Omoni standards, but they're in my laptop and I want to shoot those movies. And so it's a fear of saying, not your standards at all, but yeah, if I try. So is that fear of, you know, people say, oh, what if I don't do it really well? You know, is that fear that doesn't let you do things? So that's what drives you to actually go ahead and actually do it. Once I have fear about something, I actually go ahead and try to do it. That's why I've actually bungee jumped before in my life, because I'm scared of that. I'm scared of heights, but I bungee jump because I like, you know, because it doesn't kill you and I know it's here. So fear drives me to a large extent. I can't sing, but I have a song. And it was the fear of how terrible will I sound in the song. So for me, you know, for lack of a better word, I featured Wabi and Praise in the song. The song even has a video and it's on YouTube. So this is real life story, you know, and it is there. So I want to sit back and say, I conquered my fears, right? And because that's what's exactly fair.
Okay.
All right. I'm a lover, not a fighter, by the way. Well, hey.
All right, great. Mrs. Ayo.
Thought I should put that out.
Okay, I missed the start of this because it broke off, but I'm assuming we're picking out of the list of.
Yes.
Okay. So I only got to hear. I think it was who was before you? It was Wabi. Yeah, exactly. But I think so. I can pick any, right?
Yeah.
Just pick a number between 1 and 8.
I pick a number. Oh, okay. I guess 5. What's 5?
5 has been picked.
5 already.
You did 5?
Yeah. 5 has been picked.
Okay, 3. Has that been picked?
All right. What's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Can I use swear words?
No.
We are over 18. Go on.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I think seriously, maybe a bit of advice, let me think. There's so many, I can't say there is a best. I don't know why I picked this number, but I guess maybe if I have to pick immediately, it would be look at the bigger picture, you know, think out of the box, but the best one I would have to say has swear words, so I'd rather just let you imagine.
All right. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody on the panel. Michael, over to you.
All right. Good afternoon again, everyone. Thank you very much for joining in. We're most grateful. I think our audience they've enjoyed it a lot. I particularly have been laughing here with all the conversations and all that. It's quite engaging. I understand that there are a few deals being consummated between Mai and a few other people. Please just note that we get 10% of any deal that has been consummated on this platform.
Deal, Mai is very much
we don't need legal expertise.
No. You always do the lawyer. You always do. You know. So yeah, I think for me, I'll just end by saying that definitely the creative industry is here to stay. I think in the next few months, there'll be a couple of game changers in that space. One I'm particularly excited about, Ayo's Arena will be something that would change the game in that space. You know, 10,000 seater arena, $65 million project. So you can imagine what that would do to that space. You know, maybe Omoni's next movie will be showcased there. Who knows? And maybe Mai's next fashion show would be at the arena. You know. So it's something that we're particularly excited about as a law firm and also as an investor. We like the project and we think it will change the game of the creative industry, really. Also, on the financing side, we're also working with clients that is trying to structure to finance the creative industry. So I think that the next few months, that through what we're trying to put together. So good news. So I guess the point is there'll be a couple of game changers in the industry in the next few months. So the creative industry is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. I think it's going to even get better, definitely. So once again, thank you all for joining. We're most grateful. Nosa, thank you for moderating. Ayo, Omoni, Wabi, Mai, thank you very much for joining in. I know time is money, and I'm sure, you know, we had to tap into emotional bank accounts with you guys to get you here. So, you know, definitely we wouldn't have been able to afford you if it was on an arm's length basis. So thank you. Grateful. And to our audience, thank you for joining in. And we'll be back here in August with a webinar space. And we hope either you come back as a panelist or maybe as an attendee at our next webinar. Thank you very much for joining in. Have a great remainder of the week. God bless.
Thank you.
all right.
No, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Nosa.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ask the question.